Okay, so this one doesn't show where it will happen.
So we have
So
to.
they'll share it with you then, which I will put for the platform.
Great. Welcome to the Marriage Clinic podcast. We'll give everybody a couple of minutes to jump on because today we are going live. So we'll give everybody a chance to jump on before we kickstart today's very interesting, and I can assure you, you are going to love what we are going to be doing today. So let's give you a few minutes. Let's give everybody a few minutes to jump onto the platform, and then we will go. Okay, so we see people coming on. When you come in, please put some fire in the chat, as we love to do, so that we can recognize you as you have come in. I see Inshiraba. Inshiraba is here. That's great. Yeah, so once you drop in, just put some fire in the chat. I see Opoku. Welcome, Opoku. So put some fire in the chat, and please share it. Do your best to share the link so that more people can jump on, which is great. Okay, I see Pearl. Good to see you. Yeah, more people coming on. Emanuela, you're welcome. Yes, I see Yaumo. I see Nanache, you are welcome. It's good to see all of you. So put some fire in the chat, like it, share the link, and we go. All right, if I get 3 more people jump on board, and then we will go ahead. Elijah, welcome. Kathy, welcome. Yes, 3 more people jump on board. Naomi, welcome. All right, so we are good to go. We are good to go. All right. Well, this evening is really interesting. We were going to do this by proxy and do it over, but apparently our resource person was coming into the city of Tamale and didn't tell us and has appeared and is able to do it live with us. So You can put a hand clap in there that he has showed up into our makeshift studios to join us. So let me introduce, you may have seen him from the posters, but first of all, let me just give you a little bit of an intro and we'll give him the opportunity. Today and this evening we have Lom, and I like to mention his full name, Lom Nuku Alhija. He's the managing attorney of Integri Solicitors and Advocates. He's a licensed attorney with more than 10 years of experience who is allowed to practice law in Ghana and New York, that's in the USA. Lom is a graduate of Harvard University, the Ghana School of Law and the University of Ghana. He didn't add, he also is a graduate of Achimota School. He is happily married to his lovely wife, who also is a lawyer, and they have a son. You know, I was thinking about it, and I said, I'm pretty certain when they are quarreling at home, they say, I put it to you, I put it to you. So, Lom Alhija, you are welcome to the Marriage Clinic podcast.
Thank you very much.
Lom, you pulled a fast one on us. I mean, we are excited, but it was a fast one, and we've had to rearrange. But welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. I wanted to surprise you, but it seems I ended up surprising myself.
That's good. How is Tamale treating you so far?
Tamale is good. I like coming to Tamale every now and then. Okay. I have a few things doing here, so it's good to be here and see all the changes and the developments going on. So and that's exciting.
I bet it's legal stuff that has brought you to Tamale.
Absolutely. I usually come to Tamale because of work.
Okay. So you are welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Over the last 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks, we've been doing a series on the Marriage Clinic about divorce. As a person of faith, as a pastor and a person of faith, it's a very difficult subject to handle because of the church's conflicting views on the subject of divorce. When should divorce be handled? So we've gone through an entire series of looking at what divorce is in the context of faith, in the general context. What are some of the current causes we see as counselors? How to go through a divorce, that's from the counseling side. How to recover from the divorce, and things you can do to prevent a divorce. Because in the long run, as a Marriage Clinic podcast, our hope is that we are preventing divorce.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, sometimes it does come to divorce. And we believe that it was important that we got a legal person who could give us more details about what the process is like. And so many questions kept coming in during the whole period. So we are glad a great legal brain is here. And since you lecture in the Faculty of Law at the Institute of Management and Public Administration, that's GIMPA, right? Ghana Institute of
GIMPA, yes.
Management and Public Administration. I'm pretty certain there's a lot of information you will be giving us. So once again, welcome, Lom. It's great to have you. And we'll jump right in.
All right.
So, the questions are coming in thick and fast. Let's even start from when you are still not married.
Okay.
If a guy or a lady, let's say the lady agrees to marry the guy, the guy begins to prepare. Maybe he started buying a few of the things. He's probably gone to visit a couple of times. If the person then turns around during the relationship, it's not yet a marriage, and says, I will not marry you any longer, is there anything you can do legally to get some redress?
Absolutely. So, there are two things I need to clarify. First and foremost, if it's just dating,
okay,
yeah, dating, like the couple is just dating, that does not trigger any legal cause of action.
Okay.
The cause of action that will be triggered, look at the scenario you just talked about, is what we call breach of promise to marry. So that's a situation where one of the parties, so either the man or the woman, has specifically agreed or they've made a promise that they are going to move beyond just a regular dating to actually get married. In which case, that promise, if it's breached, you can sue on it and you can get a remedy from the court.
So you are saying that it's called, again, it's breach of
promise to
breach
marry.
of promise to marry.
Absolutely.
And how do I prove that there's...
Oh, there are many things that you can use. Of course, you see a legal professional ideally, and then you can marshal all the things that you need for that. But in this modern day, people communicate sometimes via technology. You may have, even if you don't have anything in written form, you may have, as you said, for example, the family have met, preparations are underway, venues are being chosen, anything that points to the fact that the two, the couple were on a journey. In other words, they've agreed that they're going to get married, and one person breaks that promise. Okay.
So for instance, if they started couples counseling in church.
Absolutely, because you are not going to start couples counseling unless you are agreed to get married.
Okay.
So that's, and the counselors are there. The church probably has a schedule. How did you get on the schedule? Because you both went to sign up and all of that. So there are many things you'll be able to use to prove that. And of course, the family is there and so on. So
and if I took, let's say I was in such a situation, definitely I'm not, because but let's say in such a situation I took the person to court, what could I get out of it?
So the remedy will be monetary damages, because the law will not force you to marry somebody that you don't want to. So obviously that cannot happen, but the law would recognize that you've been injured in a way, because there are so many things that you may have done in preparation for that marriage, which is not going to happen anymore because the other party has breached it. So you'll be compensated in monetary terms. But
okay,
that's about what the law can give you.
So that means the men out there who keep going for lists, let's go to the family, give me a list, they could actually be taken to court for such actions.
Absolutely, and there are many instances where that has happened, not only in Ghana but even in other jurisdictions. So the advice to you need to be certain before you take the bold step of asking someone to marry you. And when you do, and you find that there's reason not to proceed, it will be good to really engage the other party to ensure that it's amicable. Otherwise, there's potential, civil liability on the way. Yeah.
I feel like calling a number of people after this and saying, Charlie, my dear, let's go to court.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I can imagine the kinds of stories that you've heard from.
Yeah, it's
where you sit.
From where I sit is interesting, because sometimes they go very far. They go very far, and I'm dealing with several cases like that where the person decides overnight that after you've gone to see the family, you've taken a list, you are even beginning to talk about dates, and then something crops up in the relationship, and without even trying to sort it out, the person just decides that I'm out. And sometimes you look at the emotional damage it causes to the other party.
Yes.
And it can be devastating. But on the other hand, we as counselors always say that a broken engagement is better than a broken marriage.
I agree.
So if you are encouraging them to still exit if they feel it's the wrong thing, it's finding that balance is interesting. Yeah. Anyway, a lot of people wanted us to jump into the divorce issues. I had some ladies sending me messages and really asking serious questions. We live in a society today that has become for the lack of a better word, let me say, has become a little fickle with regards to the concept of divorce. Mm-hmm. So you find out that whenever I'm engaging couples that are having issues, it seems like divorce is one of the first things they are considering. And in their minds, divorce is the way they see it on TV shows. And the way they have experienced it through movies and so on. And I try to tell them that it is not like that. But today you are here to walk us through the various things. So, but first of all, let's just look at the types of marriage we have. And with all these types of marriage, can we get a divorce? So just tell us about the types of marriage briefly.
Okay, so you have customary, the traditional marriage, you have ordinance, you have the Mohammedan. So under Ghanaian law, you can get married under any of these three areas. So you obviously know that the type of marriage you enter into has specific incidents that come with it. So, for example, if you marry under tradition, potentially it's polygamous. We say potentially polygamous because there's no compulsion on you to actually go beyond the one. You could marry under tradition and still have only one wife. That's possible under Ghanaian law. Mohammedan also permits you to go beyond one. But for Christians, generally, we are married under the ordinance. And so with ordinance, it's a monogamous relationship. And so under these three different marriage areas, it's possible to marry under any of them.
Okay.
Yes.
And for instance, this may be jumping the gun, but in the traditional marriage, can you get a divorce in the traditional marriage?
Yes. So when you get married under tradition or any specific custom that exists in Ghana, you have two options. One is that you can get divorced according to that custom, or you can get divorced under what we call the Matrimonial Causes Act. So that's the law that regulates all the divorce matters we're going to be talking about today. Whichever type of marriage you entered into, it is possible for you to come under the Matrimonial Causes Act. But for customary marriages or traditional marriages, you can follow the custom of the tradition. So, for example, in some traditions, the way to divorce is to present a drink or return the drinks that the family presented when they come to marry, for example, the lady. So once you do that, that's it. In other places, they have things like powder. The drinks are brought, they pour powder on somebody. Like different tribes, different cultures have different things that constitute divorce. So once you meet what that custom requires, basically, a divorce can be obtained.
But just to double down on that one, so is it possible that there are two people who got married under the traditional? Let's say the families met, they exchanged all the customary things that must be done. And then let's say, for instance, the man decides he wants to divorce the woman. Can the woman take him to court?
Absolutely.
Even though it was traditional, can she then go to the law courts or the structured legal system to try to deal with the situation there?
Absolutely. That's what I was saying. There are two ways. So the traditional divorce is there, and then you can also go through the Matrimonial Causes Act, which is a court process. It's surprising, and I think even we pastors and counselors have walked in a little bit of ignorance with regards to that, because the whole mindset has been that once it has been done traditionally, then the law courts have with it. No, that's not the case. And you see, one of the reasons I can give you for going the court route is that the Matrimonial Causes Act specifically gives you a wider latitude of things that are possible. So, for example, things related to custody, things related to financial settlement, property settlement, will be dealt with by a court. Tradition will not deal with those things. Even though we know that from our traditional system, people are able to agree certain arrangements. But what if the arrangements don't make sense to you, for example, as one of the parties? Because when it comes to applicable law in Ghana, when it has, specifically with children, the basic underlying principle is that every decision that must be taken concerning a child must consider the best interest of a child. Now, if you have a traditional divorce and they say, okay, the child should stay with, let's say, the man or the woman, did the family really consider the best interest of the child? Or they assume that because it's a child, it should just automatically go to the woman. Whereas in court, the court is going to be looking at all the circumstances of the case, all the the specific issues that have arisen in that particular context to determine whether actually to be better for the child to be with the dad or to be with the mom. You see, and so the law gives you that opportunity, and so not many people probably are aware of it, as you said, but you should definitely know that that option is there. Yes.
Wow. So this is interesting to listeners out there who are watching and those who are listening. Let the records reflect that you are being informed that even if you were married traditionally and you are having a divorce and you feel you don't like the way it's being handled in the traditional setting, you can go to the courts for the courts to intervene in that divorce.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So another thing to note is that, you see, the traditional route for the divorce will vary according to custom.
Okay.
So, for example, maybe it's from a particular tribe, the woman's from another tribe. But when you go through the court system, it's neutral in the sense. So that option is there. The law specifically provides for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We live and we learn. This is, I can just see some ladies taking notes right now and say, aha, I can find the guy there. Okay, but in our general setting, what are the grounds for divorce? What can I look at and say that, okay, because this has happened in the marriage, now I can go in for a divorce, the basis?
Okay, so in Ghana, there's only one ground of divorce. Just one.
Okay.
That one ground is that the marriage must break down beyond reconciliation. So we have instances, or the law specifically gives you ways in which you can prove that. And that's what I guess you had in mind when you asked about the grounds. Things like adultery, desertion, where, for example, the couple are not living together as husband and wife, things related to unreasonable behavior and all that. Those are, if I say, examples, things that you can use to show or prove to a court that because of these, you have come to the conclusion that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation. But as far as Ghanaian law is concerned, it is only one ground. Can you show to the court that your marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation? Once you can prove that in any fashion, generally you are likely to get the divorce through, because that's the bottom line.
So, unlike we lay people have been made to believe that there should have been adultery, there should have been unreasonable behavior, what must be proven to the court is that we can't get along.
Not simply we can't get along. Let's say the circumstances that exist in our marriage is such that it's not possible for us to be together. And so, for example, if it's an adultery, and the law specifically provides that adultery is one of the things that can show that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation, such that maybe there's adultery, one of the parties cannot reasonably see themselves being together intimate with the other party because of the adultery. So it's something that you can use to show. Or unreasonable behavior, one of the parties acts in a way that it doesn't make sense. Maybe physical abuse, hitting, things like that, insults, verbal, emotional abuse and all of that. Things like that you use to support the point. But like I'm saying, as far as the law is concerned, the ground is one. And that ground is that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation. Every other thing you would actually marshal to support that is what will ultimately lead the court to be convinced that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation. Okay. And one of the key things to note, especially for people of faith, is that the Matrimonial Causes Act itself recognizes that there may be instances where a married couple will come to court even along the lines of divorce. Somebody has filed a petition of divorce, but the law makes provision, for example, for the judge to be able to encourage the parties to settle once the judge can tell that there's reasonable basis for reconciliation to be reached. And so, in fact, one of the things you have to show in your petition or in your processes, whether it's a petition or cross petition, is that you have attempted reconciliation and you find that the reconciliation is not working. In other words, before coming to court, you want the court to even know that you know, that you have attempted a reconciliation, it didn't work, because the law wants to see that. And there have been instances where judges, for example, would, on the back of the Matrimonial Causes Act, say, why don't you take 3 months adjournment and see if you can settle it? The law even empowers the court to be able to recommend mediation or conciliation. So it will be court assisted as well. Even though increasingly we don't see that in the courts these days, because just as you said in the preamble, maybe the whole society is moving in a certain way. So now you see that the judges also, their posture is also changing, so they are not as insistent as before. But generally, as the law stands today, reconciliation and any attempt at reconciliation is very much encouraged, because it should be, so that marriages are not just, you know, breaking.
So, as a follow-up to that, can you go for a divorce and the judge says, no, I'm not granting you a divorce? Is it possible?
Technically, it is possible, but I'm saying technically because, you see, judges work with law. And the law is that before a divorce is granted or any marriage is dissolved, you must show or lead evidence to convince the judge that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation. So technically, if you cannot convince the judge that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation, actually the judge is not under any, you know, compulsion to grant you the relief, because law is about you meeting the standard, and the standard is that it must be broken down beyond reconciliation. So if it has not broken down beyond reconciliation, actually, but that's why I say technically. But again, let's say practically, when it's clear that parties, or you know, one party doesn't want to be in the marriage, it becomes difficult to force them to be in the marriage.
Yeah. And
so typically what the judge will do will be, like I said, take this option of giving them some time. Say, look, I can see from maybe the posture or what you've written in your petition, your response, your answer, that maybe there's a possibility. So I want to give you a chance to try and reconcile. If the parties take it, the courts are fine with that. If they don't take it, then the judge obviously will proceed with the case and get it to the logical conclusion.
Okay. So if someone wants to get a divorce today, let's say he's having issues with his wife and he feels it's time to get a divorce, can you walk us through the procedure?
Okay, so let me start off this way. You have to make a choice as to where to start your case, right? Because usually the factors in the marriage may contribute to where you file the case. And that's probably one of the reasons why you need legal advice, because, for example, there's a child, if there's property, if I say money in the marriage, the value will determine, for example, whether I should go to high court or should go to a circuit court, or it's a simple divorce where there's nothing at stake, and probably even a district court dissolution will be possible. Because the more complicated it is, the more valuable the marital assets are, it will determine the level of court you should go to. So place to file is important. That's number one. Number two, if you've seen a lawyer, for example, the lawyer will get a sense of what the grounds for, or the basis for your claim for divorce is, and based on that we can fit it within one of the ones I mentioned, which are permitted by the law. Try and couch it to reflect that. But like I said, the bottom line is that broken down beyond reconciliation, which is what every divorce petition wants to capture as the essence of the petition. So see a lawyer, the lawyer will look at all these factors, look at the case, and based on that give you a fee for the divorce. And then once that's agreed, proceed to file the petition. The other person will be served. They have, time stipulated by the rules to be able to file their answer, or if they also want to do a cross petition, which is another petition. In other words, since you have filed a petition against them, alleged certain grounds, they also can file their own petition in the answer, or they can simply just respond to your petition, which is what we call the answer. So once they do that, then it triggers the process in courts, then we go through a number of motions, which are technical. I don't think we should go into that. But simply, that's what you do. When you are seeking legal advice, the lawyer should be able to determine, like I said, the venue, all those things, in consultation with you, see which facts you put forward. Because in my experience, one of the things that can make a divorce murky or complicated is the details that are in the petition. Obviously, because, and I'm sure, as a pastor, that you come across that a lot. Sometimes the whole fight is about what was said and how it was said. So all those things are important. The lawyer has to put it in such a way that it will be, that creates
it be coherent to the court.
Exactly. And then specifically when they have children, it's so important to do it right, because even after the dissolution of the marriage, the couple have to work together to bring out the child. One will have custody, the other may have access, but at the end of the day, you have to work together. Somebody has a weekend, somebody has a weekdays, vacation, you have to coordinate. So it's good if, even when the divorce is going ahead, it can be done in such a way that it is really amicable, and people after the divorce can still work together to get
so what you're saying is, if person A decided they wanted a divorce, the first thing they have to do is to seek out a lawyer.
They need legal advice. Absolutely.
So first they need legal advice to even know which of the courts they are taking it to.
Yes.
And then they now need legal advice to help them put the information together.
Exactly.
And then the other person is then served.
Yes, once it's filed in court.
The other person is served. Yes. And then it now begins to go before the courts.
Yes.
So does it mean that I can't get a divorce without a lawyer?
No, it doesn't mean that. In fact, under Ghanaian law, you can represent yourself in any case, not only divorce.
You can represent yourself.
Yes, you can represent yourself.
Okay.
The law is, in fact, every Ghanaian is supposed to understand all the law in Ghana, at least at the basic level.
Okay.
We lawyers are just specialized. We are trained to understand it at a deeper level. So if, for example, the case is more complicated, obviously you need a lawyer, but there's absolutely no law against you filing a case by yourself or defending it by yourself. And the law of Ghana, Constitution of Ghana, protects the right of an individual to do that. Again, I mentioned that the complexity in the marriage and around the marriage should be a guide.
Okay.
So, for example, at a district court level, district court is the lowest court in our court structure. So it is designed to be accessible by every person on the street, let me put it that way. And so that's why we have district courts in districts. They are the lower level, and then you have higher courts at maybe more of a regional level, like that. So at district court level, you can just go to the district courts, and then you'll meet the registrar, narrate your case, and they'll give you forms to fill it up for you. Based on that, the other party will be served, and they also will be able to respond.
Okay.
So district court level generally, I mean, if you have any claim against anybody, not even divorce matters, but any kind of claim, which is a small claim, you can go to a district court by yourself. You don't need a lawyer. Okay. And in fact, it's more expensive to get a lawyer, because the amount, for example, you are claiming, even the lawyer's fee might even be more and all that. So those district courts are designed to be accessible to just anybody. But as I'm saying, if there's a lot of marital property, there are issues, there are several children or even one child, there are certain complexities with it, maybe abuse, things like that, you may want to.
So let's say, for instance, they've got married, no children, they are both starting life, living in a one room, no property to split, maybe it's pots and pans and mattresses, and then they decide they can't, such a person can just go to a district court and try to sort it out from there.
It's possible.
It's Absolutely possible, but you wouldn't advise it.
I don't give a blanket answer, because a lot depends on specific cases. But this scenario you painted appears to be, let's say, a simple divorce, right? But even before you do that, it may still be advisable to seek legal advice, in the sense that the lawyer will help you understand what you are getting into, Okay, so that even when you do go to a district court on your own, because the lawyer will advise you that, look, based on this, maybe you should go to a district court and maybe you can handle it by yourself. But you know what you are dealing with as you go in there. And of course, you should not see your lawyer as your first point of call. You should go and see your pastor. Yes, you should try everything possible for your family, all of that. But if it gets to a point where you are actually taking a step, even if you intend to do it by yourself, it will be advisable to still seek legal advice.
Okay, so this is some great information we are getting. For those who are watching, this is the Marriage Clinic podcast. It's a podcast about love, relationships, personal development. And today we are glad to have our very own lawyer here, Lom Ahija, who is taking us through the basics of what we need to know. I mean, some of the things that are jumping out at me are, for instance, up until today, we live and we learn. I never knew that if you got married traditionally, you could still involve the courts if the marriage is being dissolved. And I didn't know you could choose to represent yourself. I don't think it is that easy, but I hear you can choose to represent yourself in any case, and so it's encouraging. We should all try to learn a little bit about the law. But as you were speaking, you talked about the fact that you need more legal or you need legal representation the more complex the marriage is with regards to the resources in the marriage, the children present. One of the things that we hear, so let me use some examples. I have a couple of men who come in and their wives are exhibiting unreasonable behavior and they really want out of the marriage, but they have been told and conditioned by society that they will not get custody of the children.
Okay.
And they are concerned about their wives bringing up the children without them being present.
Okay.
So brings me to the question, in a divorce, who gets custody of the children? And is it always the woman, as we are made to believe?
Definitely not. It's not always the woman. When it comes to children, the basic guiding principle of the courts is what is in the best interest of the child.
Okay.
That's it. There are many facets of it, but the simplest way to put it is what I've just said, the best interest of the child. So how do we determine the best interest of the child? The courts will have all the facts. For example, who takes care of the children as at now? Who spends more time with them? Who has more time?
Okay.
Whose job pays better? Where do they school? Who has a relationship with them? Who is, who is more caring? Who's violent, beats the children, abuses the children? Like, the courts will look at whatever facts are before it to be able to tell that, look, based on the age of the child, for example, even the age of the child, that the law even permits the court to engage the children if they are of age. So, of age, I mean a child that can express themselves.
Okay.
So, if let's say you have a 10-year-old, the judge can actually have a conversation with the child and find out their problem. The judge is not going to rely on that alone, but it is one of the factors. The judge could look at schools, where they school now, who are they going to live after the marriage, who will be closer. So when the judge looks at all these factors, the judge could conclude that for this age of the child, in the circumstances of this divorce, I think the woman is the best person to have custody. Or it could be the man also, and it happens. But generally, I guess the reason why people may express this sentiment, especially men, is because generally women are more into the children's upbringing. But that we have to take a step back and ask, why is that so? Are the men also really into the lives of their children? Because in our society, there's a certain sense in which the woman is the primary caregiver and the men are, if I say, secondary. But is it right to do so? And there are men who, for example, because of that, don't even do anything concerning their children, don't spend enough time with them. They don't even know anything about their upbringing and all that. So obviously, with these facts, if the judge is aware, and it usually come out in the proceedings, the judge will know that the children are better placed with the mother.
Okay.
But it is not absolute. Like I said,
it's not absolute.
Best interest of the child. You may have a mother who's abusive. There have been incidents where, maybe like, let me just give a ridiculous example, but we've heard about things like this before where, for example, there was one case where a woman used a heated iron on the back of the child because the child did something wrong, things like that. So the judge could look at this and say, you know what, I don't think this child will be better off with the mother, maybe better off with the father, and then the mother may have access. So usually the court will make two orders. There'll be an order as to who gets custody of the child or children, and then there'll also be one on access. So the access will say maybe that particular parent will be able to visit them weekends. They can have them weekends. Sometimes the judges do not go into a lot of detail because they want the couple to work it out. But it will be to be clear in the decision of the court that custody goes to
one particular
person, and the other will have access. But you can always work it out, and that's one of the reasons why, like I was saying, when the divorce petition is being filed, it's good to have a view towards the end, so that things are couched in such a way that even after the divorce, the couple are able to stay together, or at least work together. Not stay together, work together to bring up the children. Because when the divorce is very acrimonious, it can spill over into that, and the children will suffer for it because they will have to collaborate for as long as the children are below the age of majority, which is
18.
Well, it depends. For certain things, it's 18. For others, it's 21. But it all depends. Yeah. But in Ghana, most people want to see the children through university. So there are even times when you see specific orders saying that maybe this particular party will pay school fees up to university and all that.
Wow. Yeah. Well, you are hearing it here this evening, and I can see people in the comments. I can see people in the comments. Can you, if you have questions, please begin to put the questions in the comments so that they get to us, because we are fast running out of time. We probably have about 10-15 minutes to go, so we are running out of time. But please do put your questions in there. But in practice, have you ever seen situations where men get custody?
Not for any of the cases that I've done personally, but it's possible. It's very, very possible.
And are there situations where one parent says, I don't want custody?
Yes, it's possible, because you see, you could look at your own circumstance and say, I think maybe the other party should have the custody. Because, you know, that's why I said the courts look at all these things. So let's say you're a busy person. Your work is such that you have very little time at home, or you travel a lot, let's put it that way. Maybe when you're around, fine, you have the time, but the nature of your job means that you're on the road a lot. You travel outside, within Ghana, all of that. What it means is that you will not be present to parent your child. And the law gives priority to parents, not I want custody, but it will be my mother who will be taking care of the child. No. It's that the law is concerned about the parents. So if you are not available and you know the other party is available, even if you are best placed to take care of them, because of your job, you obviously cannot do that, and so you cannot. And because you are not going to give you custody for you to leave the child with grandmother or grandfather, any of that auntie is not the parents get priority. So the other parents, once they are available and they can take care of the child, they will get custody. If you are not able to. Yeah.
So is it possible for someone to refuse to get divorced?
It's not possible because once the other party wants it, they have filed a petition. You can respond and say you don't want a divorce. And I've seen something like that before. I have one particular case that the answer to the petition said we know there's no need for divorce. We can work it out and all that. So, like I'm saying, something like that may get the judge to say, maybe you guys can settle this somehow, or you can try and resolve it, because I can see that one party
It's still in love.
is still interested, and so on. But if the other party insists, eventually the judge will have to make a determination, because the two parties must be on the same page. They must both want to be in. If one doesn't want to be in, and for them they can show that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation, for them, that it's likely that the marriage will be
So
dissolved.
technically, it takes two people to get married, but one person to get a divorce. Is that?
That's an interesting way of putting it.
Yeah, if you look at it technically,
Yes.
you can only get married when there are two people.
Yes.
But one person can choose to get the divorce, and the other person is going to have to go along with it.
Yes, because you can't force the person to be in a marriage if they have reason to show a court that is broken up. So, for example, let me give you an example on, say, unreasonable behavior.
Mm-hmm.
If the other parties are alleged unreasonable behavior of the other,
Yeah.
you may think your behavior is okay. Some people are brought up in places or homes where you think it's okay, for example, for a man to physically abuse their wife.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be surprised that family people will even come in and they think it's normal. Like,
You can beat her once in a while.
yeah, once in a while it is a no. So if, for example, it's the lady who has filed the petition for divorce and is alleging that, for example, the unreasonable behavior of the husband is the physical abuse, the emotional abuse, and so on, you can't say you want to be in the marriage, because for her, your behavior is such that she cannot see herself living with you.
Mm-hmm.
And with these facts, the courts will be convinced that it's beyond reasonable behavior. The marriage has broken up beyond reconciliation, because how do you reconcile when this beating, you don't see that there's anything wrong with it?
I feel beating is normal. You feel beating is not normal.
Wow.
But
You get
so
it.
for me, it's normal behavior. For you, it's unreasonable behavior.
Absolutely.
I get.
That's where your work as a pastor comes in. You have to talk to these people who believe that it is okay to beat your spouse. I mean, yeah, but people still believe that it's possible, it's normal, or they think it's not a big deal. And even you'll be surprised that family people might say, so is it simply because they beat you?
Is it only because of beating? No, I've seen situations where the guy even went to the police station and was trying to explain to the police that, look, it's not a big issue. She was being naughty. And the way she was being naughty, I had to discipline her. And he said, it wasn't even a big cane I used. So yes, there are people who kind of feel like that. One of the things that scares people away and keeps a lot of people in abusive marriages, especially where there's a lot of physical abuse, or there's a lack of there's not a financial balance, yes, where one party controls more of the resources than the other person, is the fear of what it will cost to get a divorce. Mm-hmm. I was going to say in CD terms, but with the way the CD is playing around, maybe I'll say in dollar terms or maybe CD terms. What does it cost? Is it possible to give us a ballpark figure of what it costs to get a divorce in the year 2022? A range? Mm-hmm. I know it will not be, it differs according to lawyers, but a reasonable range within which it will cost you to go through the process.
Okay, reasonable for a simple divorce, because as I said, some divorce can be complicated.
Yeah.
A simple divorce, anywhere.
And by the way, let's give a caveat. He's not giving his rates.
No.
He's giving a ballpark figure of what it will cost within a range of what he thinks it will cost.
A simple divorce, anywhere from maybe 5 to 10,000 cedis.
5 to 10,000 Ghana cedis. Which would
simple divorce meaning there are no children, no property, nothing, just basic.
But if there are children, there's property, there's crazy behavior going on, it will cost much more than that.
Much more than that, yes.
Brings us to the second question. How long does a divorce take in Ghana?
Okay, so that's about the efficiency of the courts, right? So that's about how quickly the courts can deal with it. Let's assume that we are going through the full process. In other words, there's no break for reconciliation or anything. It all depends. But on average, I'll say, again, if it's a simple divorce, maybe within one legal term, it should be possible, which means that, let's say, within a year, possible. If it's complicated, and especially when the parties are, they want to, quote unquote, show each other.
Okay.
Because you see, a lot depends on what you put in your documentation and what you say and how you say it. Because there are things that you put in a certain way and the other party is like, no, we have to respond to this. And then we have to respond. Then it can go on and on. There will be applications flying in between, trying to just, if I say, show each other.
Stretch the issue.
Stretch the issue. So that obviously means more cost. Because the more complicated it is, the more fights the parties have in them and what they want to do with that fire will make your cost go up, and then the time also take forever. There was a recent case where it went all the way to the Supreme Court on an interim application, and the Supreme Court they gave their judgment. One of the things the Supreme Court did was that they advised the case that, look, the kind of energy and passion that they're using to fight this interlocutory matter, they should just use it to do the main divorce and end it. Because the divorce itself, the substantive matter was still there.
Okay.
They were going on appeal to Supreme Court on minor things. You get it? And it goes on and on. So it could take anywhere from 2 to 3, 4 years. But I think a year for a simple divorce. So it's 2 years.
So for those watching and listening, if it's a simple divorce where there's no complications about money, children, it should take about a year to sort out, give or take. Yeah. And if there are children involved, if it's acrimonious, it can take well from 2 years to 5 years.
Possible, yes.
So that also means that if you are seeking quick relief, the courts may not be the best place to get the relief from your spouse.
Well, again, we have to be very careful there, because, for example, if it's an ordinance marriage, the only place you can go is the court. So you can't avoid the courts in that sense. You get it. Again, and that's why I come back to the point that, with experience, what I can say is that a lot depends on what is put in the petition and what is put in the answer. You get what I'm saying? You can have 1,001 things that your spouse did wrong when you are filing the petition, and when, of course, your lawyers also will guide you in that process. They have to couch it in such a way that, just like, the Bible advises us, it's a kind word will turn, anger away. But if you put it in such a way that it stokes the fire, then the other side will be like, oh, we have to also show that, and then they also write, and then it goes back and forth, and you realize that now, basically, there's a fight going on words and everything.
Who did this and who was here, and
you can put the facts right, but put them in a way that when the other person reads what they've written about them, they're like, okay, let's also respond, and let's also, so then you can move things along. And when the other side has also filed through a lawyer, as two lawyers, you're able to also because as professionals, you guide your clients to do the right thing. So the lawyers also, we have a role to play in either ensuring that things are done properly, or we also contribute to the confusion in that sense.
Someone sent in a question. We will not be able to handle all the questions, but someone sent in a question about custody. He asks that If custody is given to one parent, but the children insist they want the other parent, what happens?
As I said, best interest of the child. Before the judge decided that I should go to that particular person, it means that in the judge's view, looking at all the circumstances, that's the best person placed. Now, children, depending on their age, may not even know what's best for them. As we all know, if you're a parent, you know that children want one thing, and you also could tell that maybe what they are requesting for at a particular point in time is not what's best for them. So the children's desire is, like I said, one of the factors. So if let's say you have a child that's 15 years old, 15 years old, if they don't want to be with their mother, they want to be with their dad, for example, when the judge has a conversation with them, as I said, the law allows that, the judge will feel that, hey, this is a 15-year-old. In 3 years, the person will be 18. They are old enough to know who they want to be with. So the judge will consider that and probably give it greater weight in all the other factors and say, you know what, this 15-year-old wants to be with their dad. I'm going to give that, give custody to the dad. But if the judge also decides that you'll be with your mother, you'll be with your mother until the custody, yes, it's changed, because the judge have looked at other things that maybe the child is not thinking about or wants. And so, yes, absolutely.
Just a few minutes to go. Someone is asking whether we do prenup agreements in Ghana.
Well, as it is, as the law is today, we don't have that. But there's a bill that has been prepared and has been on, if I should say, hasn't been able to become law yet. That's a spousal rights bill. It includes all kinds of things, including, for example, the possibility of doing a prenup and so on. Under existing law now, I haven't seen any, and I don't know of any, arguments that confirm that it's possible to do that now. And in my professional opinion, I don't think that prenups should be, enforced under our current regime, and that's the reason why, there's an attempt to pass legislation that enables that to be possible and so on. But who knows? That could be tested.
Okay, just wrapping up. I think we set ambitious targets of questions we wanted to get answered, and the time has run out so quickly. An hour has gone so fast, but still getting this one popping up about the property. A lot of the men are concerned that they have a lot of assets and all they hear is that it's going to be split 50-50. How is the property split? How are the assets split? And is it always split 50-50?
Well, first of all, there needs to be a distinction between property acquired during marriage and property acquired before marriage. So property acquired during marriage is marital property. Yes. So that is for both parties, regardless of who's working and who's not working, and who brought money and who didn't bring money, because once you are married, you are both committed to the same, if I say, enterprise, right? So once it's marital property, it's for both of you, and the position of the law is that generally to be equal share. But there are factors that may tilt it one way or the other. But generally speaking, you should expect that marital property will be equitably shared between the parties. In other words, 50-50. That's the default position.
So if we get married and a man and a woman get married, the woman is not working, maybe she's taking care of the kids and other things, and within that period the guy hustles at the workplace and builds a house. If they are getting a divorce, that house should be split 50-50. Is that what we are saying?
Absolutely, because as you said, the man is hustling, right? Well, it takes hustle to be a housewife, to take care of the home. That home that the man supposedly hustled to build must be maintained, cared for. The children will be cared for, driven to school, all that. The woman's, that is contribution as well. It's as good as
the one hustling,
buying the cement and buying the blocks. As far as the law is concerned, then it actually makes sense because you are both in it together. So one's role is to probably go out and the other one is to stay home, but you are both committed to the same enterprise. So the woman has an equal share in it just as the man does.
How about if one sets up a business? Let's say it's a limited liability business. Does it still fall under the property that can be split?
Okay, so once the limited liability entity means that the person who sets up has shares in it. I'm assuming limited by shares. So your shares, if you own 100% shares in that business, 50% will belong to your spouse. Yeah, because whatever you are building for that business, assuming there was no divorce conversation, whatever you build for that business, you bring it home for everybody, like for the family. When it's bad, you come and complain to your spouse about how the business is not going. Like, it's all part of the contribution. Your spouse is contributing by listening to all your hassles and the issues. So, you know, we evolved in this jurisprudence because there were years ago, the starting point was that when a man dies, the property belongs to his family. So that's when we used to hear of old where family members go and throw out a spouse out, like a woman, for example, out of the home and all that. We moved away from that. We came to a point where we started talking about substantial contribution. So we want to see whether, for example, when the man was building the house, did the woman contribute anything? Was she supervising the work, buying the materials? We've moved away from all that. Now where we are now is that once you acquire the property during marriage, both of you, exactly. So that's the you part. You said you give your everything, your riches, and all that we say in our vows, right? So you have to be fully in, and when you're out, it should be the same.
I see the women getting excited in the chat here. I see Eugenia saying it's interesting. Grace is saying it's educative. My wife is saying this is very informative. It looks like with the latter part, the women seem to be getting a bit more excited.
Yes, because they contribute, just that we don't see that as contribution, but it is. Because assuming you were out there working, hustling, and you come home and you have to, I don't know, clean your house, take care of your kids, do all that. If you've agreed with your wife that your wife will be a stay-at-home mom and you go out, it means that your wife is working in the house.
Yeah.
So you are also working out. And then even in our contemporary time, most of us are both working. Husband is working, wife is working. And then of course we have some families where they say the man's money is our money. The woman's money is no. So it's part of what I'm saying. They should
so the woman's property and what she also has is not hers. It's for
it's a marital property. So don't think that as a woman you buy your own property and that's yours. No.
Okay. I see a question from Phyllis about mediation. Do we have mediation services in Ghana for couples?
Absolutely.
That are going through this? Okay.
Yes, we do. And I also mentioned that we have court assisted. Even in a divorce proceeding, the court can direct that there should be court assisted mediation.
Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to pick out a few. Once we have him, let's use him and exhaust him before he goes, as we are coming to the end.
I'm always available as well.
All right. Yeah. So this has been great. We've pulled you in for this long. If people want to reach you after this, how can they get in touch with you?
Oh well, if they need just general legal advice, they should go to see any legal practitioner. Yeah. It's
and if they want your services, they should look for you on social media.
They'll find me.
They should find you on social media, or you can reach out to me, and for a fee I'll share his contacts.
You're not permitted to do that.
You see me. Anyway, so this has been the Marriage Clinic podcast. It's been informative. I personally have learned so much, and I think from this point I will also advise people a lot differently. Lom, thank you so much for making the time to be here with us. The Marriage Clinic family is truly grateful for you being here, and we've learned so much, and I'm sure it won't be the last time we have you. So, listeners, this has been the Marriage Clinic podcast, a podcast about love, marriage, and personal development. And today we have looked at the legal side of divorce and the family and all these issues, and it has been informative. If there's one thing that you can run away with, or the single people should run away with, if someone comes to show, what's the word, is it intent of proves intent of marriage, and then they disappoint you, you can
not just the intent, there must be a promise to marry.
A promise, if there has been a promise to marry. So the young guys out there who every now and then, to get the lady in bed, you are saying, I'll marry you, give me the list, and all those things. Realize that you can be handled in court. Another important thing that came out for us was that traditional marriages, also you can still handle it in our court systems. We've also looked at custody, and we've looked at the splitting of property. But I think what comes out of all of this is that it is still easier to work at a marriage. It's easier and cheaper to work at a marriage than to pursue a divorce. Absolutely. A divorce is not a quick fix, but sometimes it is necessary. So we are grateful you've been with us. And next week we'll be back again with another episode of the Marriage Clinic. God bless you. Take good care of yourself, and see you next week.